At number 10, we have a twist ending to a story, and this is sent in from the Neon Spark Gaming and Music channel, and they said this. When I was just turning 11, I used to always go to the gas station about a mile from me to get snacks every other day during summer vacation on my bike, and I would stock up for every week. One time I was going there, a piece of glass broke one of my tires, so I had to walk there. A few minutes later, a man with the blue Chevy truck drove by and asked if I was heading to the gas station. I told him yes, and he helped put my bike on his truck, and I climbed into the back as he drove me there, asked me where I was coming from, and tried to make small talk. He eventually went to the gas station as he pulled off my bike from the back of his truck and was headed inside after I locked it up on the inside of the gas station. He saw me getting a whole bunch of things, and he told me he would pay for it, and I happily accepted. He paid for my stuff, and then I left the store feeling a bit happier knowing someone as nice as him was around. About 4 days afterwards, the news turned on, and the man that helped me was a serial killer, and he had killed 16 people, 5 of them being teenagers. And I guess breaking from his story for a second, he almost became the 6th person. Alright, going back to his story, he said, "From then on, I never went to the gas station again." I mean, yeah, I wouldn't return to any gas stations ever again. I would never talk to a single person that I never knew. I mean, we're not supposed to be talking to strangers anyways. And you know what? I'm still glad you're alive to tell that story. Next up, number 9. This comes from Nicole and Mikhail, and they wrote this. "I woke up in the middle of the night. I couldn't move at all. I couldn't close my eyes. I was stuck facing my window. Then out of nowhere, I hear the dogs in my neighborhood start barking. As I lay there paralyzed, I see this massive figure walking through my yard. I had to say it was at least 13 feet tall. It growls very deeply and stared directly at me for what seemed like forever. Then it turned to look at something I couldn't see from my window. Then it ran like hell. Morning came, and of course nobody believed me. I can't even begin to imagine what that massive creature was afraid of. True story. I'm pretty sure you saw Slenderman from your window, and I believe you. I would for sure be paralyzed and unable to move as well. Or maybe it was that serial killer from the first story we talked about, and at number 10. Number 8, where the heck did Annabella go? This next story comes from V Cook, number 1 fan, and they wrote this. When I was 6 years old, I had a little sister named Annabella. She would always come in my room and say, "Do you want to play with me?" And I would always say, "Why not?" and go with her. But then one day I had a lot of homework, and she came and asked again. Well, this was the first time I have said no to her. She then started to repeat it over and over until I blacked out, and then I just woke up in my bed and didn't see her. So I asked my parents about where Annabella went, and they said I was the only child. I absolutely love this story, although I don't know if it's actually a real story. I mean, it's plausible, because why not? Maybe this person has lived their whole life thinking that she had a sister, but then later in life she found out that she actually doesn't have a sister and she's the only sibling. But you know what? Great job, great twist to the story for sure. Alright, moving on, number 7, it's time for a ghost girl. This story comes from Space Duke, and thank you so much for sending in this story. So don't forget to head over to my Instagram, look for this image, and send your story there, because I want to read all your guys' stories. Okay, so getting back to this one, this person wrote, "My mom used to be a manager at a grocery store. Every now and then I would help her close. One night when we were leaving to go home, we had a little girl say, 'Hey, wait for me.' Me and my mom heard this voice loud and clear. A lot of weird stuff would happen, but this was the weirdest." Okay, I'm not sure how I feel about that story, because 2 people for sure heard a voice of a little girl saying that. So I'm pretty sure you have a ghost in your grocery store, and I wonder if you ever heard that voice ever again, or if it was like a one-time thing. Number 6 comes from user Andy Molestin. A group of people went out drinking one night in the forest near a road. They found a nice tree to drink under and started to chat. There was a car that kept driving past and stopping for a few minutes before starting up and leaving again. They thought it was weird, but they didn't really care and continued to party. Eventually the night came to a close and they all packed up and left. On the way home, one of the friends realized he left his backpack there, so they headed back to grab it. He hopped out of his car to look, but he couldn't see it in the dark. The driver backed up so that the car light shone in the direction of the lost backpack. To everyone's horror, there was a dead body hanging from a limb just high enough that none of them noticed during the party. They never found out who that car was and why they kept stopping near them. Moving into number 5, this story comes from GeoBlock's Buster. So this happened when I was 3. I'm not sure who remembers the story at the age of 3 years old. I have absolutely no clue what I did before 15. Well, going back to this story, I had my babysitter. My mom left the house. The babysitter is abusing me a lot, and my mom didn't know it. I told her, please mom, believe me, the babysitter is hurting me. It was another day. I asked the babysitter something in the bunk bed, then she just pushed me off. I banged my head straight to the floor. My mom saw it, and my mom said, get out now, you are kicked. I was at the hospital for days, thought I was gonna die. Doctors said I had a 25% of living. I was so worried that I started crying loud. I thought I was gone. I felt my world was broke into fractions. I thought I would have a short life. My day was bad until my mom left at the hospital. When the doctor came to see, she said, I'm lucky I will survive. My eyes bursted into tears. My mom was crying of happiness. We were lucky that I made it. Is this real life right now? What a horrible babysitter. You only hear about these things in the news and you had to go through it. So unfortunate. Sorry for that. But I'm so glad you're okay. And I wonder whatever happened to that babysitter. Like, did they get arrested or what? Now at number 4, this story comes from a Ravenclaw is me plays, and they wrote this. A haunted hotel I was younger. I was about 7 or 8 years old. My parents, sister, 2 brothers, and my girlfriend went to a place. But here is the part. We did not know that the hotel was haunted, so we slept there for 3 days. Before we found out it was haunted, we went to a swimming place. After swimming, we took a shower. During the 3 nights, some things were not going great. My bro's girlfriend said, someone touched my toes. Who did it? So each room was a men's room and women's room. After day 1 and 2, it got worse. Day 2 was bad. My sister got so scared at 6 a.m. that the radio just turned on by itself. She screamed. The guy that worked in the hotel, he said that the hotel was haunted. So that's me story of a haunted hotel. Now, I'm 11 and I still remember it. I wonder if the guy at the hotel told you guys it was haunted before you checked in or, on day 1. Because if I was staying at that hotel, I would be checking out right away. I would waste no time. Number 3, we have Jose Rodriguez, and they said this. When I was 9 or 8, I was home alone, so I went to get some fruit, and then the chairs started to fall and get back up. I was scared AF. So then a person knocked at the door, then I opened it. I was happy it was my mom. I told him everything and we called the priest and he got crosses and holy water and it never happened again. So now I wear a cross with me everywhere. I think you made the right call, man. I would be very religious after seeing a chair fall and then rise back up from the dead like that. I would never take off that cross no matter what. Moving into number 2, we have a JDS39 #2 because why not? And they said T-Series. Okay, that would be a very scary story, but all jokes aside, we actually have this next story. Nobody is gonna believe me, but one day I actually saw a ghost through the window, and when I randomly shook my head, the ghost nodded its head. Ghosts are real. Is this real life right now? If you are telling a true story, I would simply freak out and might check myself into an institution, one of those crazy places, and then I would be a crazy person spending the rest of my life trying to convince people that ghosts are real. Finally, number 1, we have Hyper Adventures, and they wrote this. This is a true story that actually happened. So one day I stayed at home by myself, but I'm always used to being by myself because I'm a lone wolf. So I live in a small town with lots of windows. I hear banging, so I grabbed my broom, took off the stick, grabbed duct tape, and 2 huge machetes and made a spare. But it was about midnight and usually no one knocks at that time, so I could tell something's up. I also put on my backpack in case it wasn't safe and I had to flee the house. I hid in the kitchen for a while until the door banged open. 3 men wearing hockey masks and black suits barged in with bloody hands. I broke the window from the kitchen and sprinted as fast as I could so I can get to the nearest shelter because it was raining. So I stayed at a Burger King. I got hungry and my grandfather always gives me emergency money and I always saved it up, so I used $10 to get a meal. I stayed up to 2 hours waiting for my parents to get off work. This happened about 4 years ago. They purchased a rifle for me in case of an emergency. So now, I'm prepared. Alright, starting this list off in at number 10 with a person who could see ghosts when they were a kid. So this comes from user http.alessandra. Also just letting you guys know, I've actually chosen you as the winner for me to follow. Okay, so they actually messaged me and they said, thank you so much for following me. To be honest, I had a mini freak out when I saw it, lol. Well, you're welcome. I'm gonna try to follow as many of you guys as possible. I really want you guys to become a part of this. Alright, so this is what you sent in. I was a gateway child, meaning I can see ghosts and stuff as a kid. I can't anymore. I used to have this, best friend named Charlie who went from what my mom is describing and from what I remember was a demon. My mom told me this story about one time when we went to pick up my dad from his shift at 3 a.m. He worked third shift. Out of nowhere I said, Mommy, Charlie said you need to go bye-bye. My mom called grandma panicking. My grandma told her to sing about Jesus cause evil things hate that. So my mom sang Jesus loves the little children. While in a complete panic, from what I was told, I started to trash violently in my car seat while making demonic noises. I was basically possessed before the age of 5. Is this real life right now? That is absolutely terrifying. And I don't know if I can handle seeing a ghost or an evil spirit. I kind of stay away from that kind of stuff. I'm not really a believer, but if I saw something, if I saw a real ghost, obviously I'd be a believer. But you know what? This story could be plausible. Also, if I was a parent and my kid was making demonic noises in the back seat, yeah, it's time to go. Okay, maybe not. Maybe I'll call a priest, put some some holy water. Number 9, this scary story comes from the Undertaker_official_ and they said, okay, so I woke up at 3 a.m. and got up, looked in the mirror, and this figure was behind me. So I turned around and it was gone. Went to bed the next day, I had marks on my back. Alright, well, I think you made a mistake when you looked into a mirror at 3 in the morning. And if you really did get scratches on your back, well, first of all, I hope you're okay, but you were probably attacked by an angry spirit, or maybe it was a Bloody Mary. If this story is true, I would definitely never look into that mirror ever again in the dark, especially at 3 in the morning. I don't know, just saying. And actually, it might be time to get rid of that mirror, buy another one, but just make sure you don't smash it or crack it, because you don't want to be cursed for the next 7 years, because that could be bad. Number 8, this next story comes from YouTube, so it comes from the part 1 of this video. Make sure you guys go check that out, and make sure you guys leave your comments, your scary stories in this video, as well as Instagram. I'll try to choose like 5 from here, 5 from there. And make sure if you guys are on Instagram, you guys look for this image right here and post your story there. So this story is from A_C and they said, I got a okay story. Years ago, I don't remember what year, I was staying at my grandfather's house for a while. My grandfather has 2 chairs side by side pointing to the TV. It was 11 p.m. at night and my grandfather was sleeping in the chair to my left. I was playing my Wii cause my grandfather doesn't care what time I go to sleep at his house, and I can hear my grandfather snoring, but I saw from the corner of my eye somebody walk into the bathroom. My grandfather was still in the chair and we were the only people there. I didn't see much of this person besides that they were wearing black. I was terrified, but like all young children, I did the dumb thing and I went to go look. The door was closed and the lights were on when I put my hand on the doorknob and hear the toilet flush. I opened the door and no one was inside the bathroom. This bathroom has no window, but the bathtub was full of water. That might sound normal to you, but my grandfather's tub doesn't have running water. I closed the door, sat in the chair, and waited for my mother to get me the next day. I told my mother and grandfather what I saw, and they looked at the tub, and they were baffled as me. Can someone explain this? I'm not sure if I could explain any of that. I mean, your grandfather has no running water, but yet there was water in that tub. But I'm pretty sure you might have witnessed like a ghost, but I don't know how ghosts can transfer water from like somewhere else and bring it into your bathroom. Hopefully it wasn't actually, a person that broke into the house at nighttime and felt like, you know what, I want to fill up this tub with water because they have no running water and this is gonna freak them out. But other than that, I mean, where did that water come from? Moving into number 7, the story comes from Gracie_Conklin02. Younger, I can see ghosts and demons and my house was built on a graveyard. So I had this friend named Sarah. She had long black and pale skin, blue eyes and freckles, and always wore a white and blue dress with cowgirl boots. And when I got older, my mind blocked her out, but a couple months ago, I woke up with an S scratch on my back and I got scared. My question is, did your parents know that your house was built on a graveyard? Because is this real life right now? How terrifying is that? There's a lot of dead people underneath like your bedroom. Why would someone even think to build a house on a dead person? I mean, your house is gonna be forever haunted. I would move far, far away as soon as possible. Like, I'm not even kidding. Number 6 also comes from YouTube. User Pineapple Pearl sent this in. I saw my little brother in 2 places at the same time. So I went downstairs, got a drink, and then went back up, and I saw my brother. He was just looking at me. Then I saw him in the bathroom, and I don't know if I have my real brother now. And this happened 3 years ago. Okay, are you sure you don't have maybe, you know, twin brothers? Maybe there actually is 2 of them. Maybe you were just super tired, your eyes, your brain, it played tricks on you. Or maybe you have a shapeshifter in your house, and it was pretending to be your brother. Or maybe the shapeshifter is your brother. Now that would be a twist ending. K-Drawing replied to that story and said, one of them is a ghost slash demon. Chammy Bros also said, you're right, not his brother, but a demon. Well, I have to say, your brother has a lot of questions that must be answered. First question is, are you a shapeshifter? Number 5 comes from Lauren_A_13, and she said, I used to live in a really haunted house where weird things happen all the time. But I will tell you the most bone chilling. We've had many accounts of feeling people touch us and no one was there. My dad once saw someone sitting on his and my mom's bed in the reflection of the mirror. When he turned around, they were gone. I think the scariest thing that ever happened was when I was a teenager. I was babysitting my little sister. It was just her and I alone that night. My parents were out of town, 10ish. I put her in the crib to sleep for the night. She was only 6 months old. When I woke the next morning, she was in her bassinet in the living room. Keep in mind, it was only her and I home, and I hadn't moved her. My parents never made us stay overnight alone ever again after that. Okay, wow, that's pretty messed up. Pretty terrifying. And you know what? Thanks for sending that in. And you know what? By the way, congrats on meeting that country star at the Country Fest. I mean, that's so sick. How did you get so close to him? And yeah, I might have lurked your Instagram. Number 4, this story comes from Hayaka. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Well, congrats on having a baby last year. I also lurked you and for also getting married. Well, let's get into the story that you sent in to us. When I was 9, my family moved to another city and we were cleaning our new rented house. My mom was cleaning the closet in my sister's room and she found a voodoo thing. She just threw it away. Then a week later, after we moved in the house, my sister started complaining that someone would always tap in her window. My dad then slept in my sister's room so she can catch the person that was doing that. But the night he slept there wasn't any tapping on the window, but my sister was still scared. So my parents said to share my room with her, and her room became a playroom for me. I used to play every day after school, and suddenly I started acting weird. At least that's what my family said. And then one day I started crying a lot for like 3 hours straight. My other sister came home from work and she took me to another room and started praying and was asking for whatever was there to leave. As soon as she said leave, the door just opened and closed by itself. I stopped crying. Yeah, I would stop crying too because I would be so confused what the heck is going on. Pretty scary story. Thanks for sending that in. Moving into number 3. The scary story comes from Jadasphere on Instagram and they said this. I love how they get the community involved. My true story. So I had some friends over at my house, which is over 100 years old. Pretty old house. And we were playing with my Furby. I don't know why I loved those things back then. Anyways, after we stopped playing, we simply turned it off and we were playing on the bed when all of a sudden it turned on. This usually happens, but this time it was saying something weird, falling over and over again. So I took out the batteries and threw it in the closet. The second it did that, my friend fell off the bed. A little bit after lunch, we came in and it was in front of my closet with no batteries, staring at us while saying something inaudible. But it was not a normal voice. We decided to throw it out, and the day after my friend left, I found it again in the closet. I'm pretty sure my brother destroyed it after that. Not a fun experience. Well, firstly, thanks again for submitting that story. It was terrifying, and we love that you guys become a part of the video. And for that toy, I think it's time to like torch it and bury it as deep as you can bury it. Alright, moving right along. And at number 2, the story is from Stupid Goose 06 on Instagram. and they wrote, "One day I woke up in the middle of the night in tears. It must have been because my granddad had just died. I figured to get out of the bed and to get a drink. I was 9 at the time. I went to the kitchen and got my glass of water, and on my way back I heard a soft, quiet voice, 'Don't drop it.' I looked back and there was a see-through figure standing there smiling and waving as I called out, 'Gramps.' He then put his finger to his mouth and slowly disappeared. I went and told my mom, and she said that he liked me the most out of my 2 siblings. This experience is why I still believe in ghosts and give them respect if I abandon haunted buildings." I think they were saying like if I entered haunted buildings, I'm not sure. And then they also wrote, "I am 15 now." I would for sure also be a believer if I saw, Grandpa in the kitchen and he passed away. Well, once I was really young, I actually stared into the mirror for so long and I saw my older sister in the reflection. But she was in school and I was home. I was pretty freaked out. I mean, we seem to see a lot of things while we are kids. And another reason why I don't stare at mirrors today, because you just don't know. Finally, number 1, we have a story from Baekyeon from Instagram, and they said this, and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your names right. I'm trying my best. You guys try to pronounce my last name, alright? Okay, here's my story. I remember a while ago, I used to have this mother and daughter living next to my house. The daughter's name was Katie, and we were best friends. We would play together almost every day, and we would always have sleepovers. I don't know why, but she wore the same princess overalls every day. Her mom's name was Vanessa, and was a pretty good friend to my mom. I never remember them moving out, but just all of a sudden, they were gone. When I asked my mom where they went, she had no idea what I was talking about. A couple weeks later, we went to the store and I saw her and her mom. I went to them and I talked to them about what happened to them, and they just said they had some business to take care of. I went to my mom and told her, but she didn't believe me. I tried to show her, but they were gone. We got home and the news came on. It said a girl was found dead in a ditch, and it appeared to be there for a couple of days now. They had a picture of her when she was alive, and it was Katie. Same clothes, hair, everything. I freaked out because I had just talked to her at the store. I went to show my mom, but the TV wouldn't rewind and she never believed me. I've been weirded out and scared ever since. Okay, wow, that is a very scary and terrifying story, and also pretty sad. Does your mom still not believe you to this day? I know I believe you for sure. And at number 10, we have a story from user Fuzzy Meat Waffle E from part 2 of this series, and this is what they said. When I was 11 years old, my grandfather died from cancer, and after a few days, I started to see some paranormal stuff. The best experience is when I was sad, and when I get sad, I would sleep downstairs. I was having a dream about my grandfather, and it woke me up. I was crying. I saw a hand in front of me waving. I stood up, and I saw an old man sitting on a chair waving at me, but I felt safe and not scared. I don't know if he said, "You'll be safe," or if it was just in my mind. I told my parents about the incident, but they didn't believe me. We shortly moved after that, and sometimes I can hear and still see him. Okay, was that old man waving at you? Was that your grandpa? Because if that was just a random old man waving at you and saying you will be safe, I'm pretty sure that's a lie and you need to get the heck out of there. You can't just trust any old person who is dead telling you to be safe. Also, on a side note, have you guys tried that old person filter? Well, here's what I look like. I aged horribly. I don't know what happened to me, but my wife's looking pretty good. Also, apparently be careful downloading the app because the app is from it was made in Russia. Alright, let's move on. Number 9 comes from Jonesy149 on Instagram, and you know what? I chose you to follow on Instagram. Your account is private, so I submitted the request friend thing, so make sure you accept it. It's me. So if you guys want me to follow you guys, make sure you follow me on Instagram. Alright, so this is what this person had to say. This is a true story, and I think about this from time to time. My family moved in this really old house when we first moved to Pennsylvania. I remember it being the first ever house I lived in that had a food pantry. I was about 6 or 7 at the time. I remember going downstairs in the middle of the night to fetch a drink of water for myself. On a lot of those nights, I heard sobbing coming in the pantry. I also heard a voice talking as if they were venting to someone. I heard bits and pieces such as, "And this one time my little brother," and when I was 8, I knew my older sister had a few problems, so I honestly thought it was just her and never thought twice about it. it. I remember about 3 years later, and many nights of this, not every night, but some of them, we eventually moved out after my little sister was born to a bigger house. I remember packing our stuff and asking my older sister what she was always crying about in the pantry. She looked at me and looked dead serious and said, "What are you talking about? I never leave my bedroom at night because I'm scared of the dark. I never cried at the pantry." Paraphrasing that conversation a bit since it was so many years ago, but that's basically how it happened. I still ask her about it every once in a while, now that we're both adults, and she still continues to deny it. Okay, holy okay, is this real life right now? Wait a minute. So you're telling me the whole time you've been hanging out in the food pantry with the hungry ghost? I would be so terrified. And were you the only one that heard it crying? I would hope that my sister was lying to me and she was the one sobbing in the pantry, because if not, you've witnessed paranormal activities for like, I don't know how long. Moving on to number 8. This scary story also comes from Instagram user Drake_DNDSK8, because why not? Well, they submitted this story. I was once sitting in my room having a late night Minecraft session, and around 2:30 a.m. I started hearing noises. I disregarded it, seeing my house is old. I had my lights on at the time and music playing on my radio at 2:59, and the exact second that it hit 3, everything turned off. My Xbox, my TV, everything. I was scared stiff, so I hid under the covers when my bed started to move a little back and forth, and then exactly at 3:01, everything is back on. That's my scary story. It happened when I was 13. I love most basic top 10s and would be shocked if I made it into a video. Well, you know what, buddy? There you go. You've just been featured in a most missing top 10 video. Thank you so much for submitting your story. And you know what? I think it's safe to say that you should go to bed before 3 a.m. Never stay up late ever again. But you know what? I would wonder if the power always goes off at the exact same time. So if I were you, I would have maybe set up some cameras and recorded for like a week and see what happened. But I would not be sleeping in that room. I'd be at a friend's house for this week. Number 7, the story comes from Chimney Nugget on YouTube, and they said this. I have my own story that gives me chills. So when I was younger, my mother came to sleep in my room so I could feel comfortable when scared. I was just paranoid about someone watching me. My bed is facing to the balcony windows, and once it was 12 a.m., I was just trying to fall asleep, but me and my mom saw a tall figure with tentacles just staring at us. We live on an apartment block on the 5th floor. After that, we always put some sort of blanket on the balcony so that creature doesn't watch my family at night. I think maybe Davy Jones from, Pirates of the Caribbean, or maybe Cthulhu was watching you guys at nighttime. I don't know what is scarier. It might be time to move. When you move, make sure to request the 20th floor or above. Some are hard for creatures to get to. And you know what? Thank you so much for submitting that story. It's pretty damn terrifying if you asked me. Unexplainable demonic activities is up next at number 6. You guys won't believe this story. Well, the story comes from Matthew Trev on Instagram, and they wrote, I was once in my house and then all the taps suddenly turned on. I was so scared. I then heard demonic laughing. I was home alone, but I ran out of the house. I came back later. All the taps were turning on and off. Then there was quiet. Okay, if that is a true story, do you know where your suitcase is? It's time to pack. Get a cell phone as well. So cell phone and suitcase. Suitcase is to pack up your important stuff, and the cell phone is to call Sam and Dean, from Supernatural, because you need to be blessed. Also call a realtor because you need a new house fast. Tell him you need it by tomorrow, and tell him on your wish list you want it to be demonic free, and you want every room to have a cross on it. Maybe sprinkle some holy water in every room. Probably one of the scariest stories on this list, but now at number 5, we have a story from Dan_.xp, and they said, I ran out of toilet paper in the bathroom and I ate something really spicy, so I needed it. Okay, I think that is one of the most traumatizing situations to be in. I mean, is this real life right now? I hope you were able to get counseling through this. Pretty tough time. Like, what do you do? What do you do? Do you consider using an object in the room to wipe do you use a cloth? Maybe your hand? That's scary. Okay, a blast from the past is at number 4. We have a story from user Noor_art7 on Instagram, and they said, this is a true story. Back when me and my sister were younger, she would constantly have nightmares and wouldn't tell us what they were. One day she passed a photograph that was framed in our house and asked who it was when she told us that she kept seeing him in her dream, and this shocked me and my parents as that was her great-great-grandfather that had passed not too long before the occurrence of her dreams, but the thing was she never met him. Now as she is old and doesn't remember any of this, I do vividly. That would be very scary, pretty terrifying. Some say that you can't dream of something that you don't know, like you can't dream of the unknown. You can't dream of someone you've never seen. But for some reason, somehow, you had dreams of your great-great-grandfather. I'm not even sure how that's possible. It's pretty scary if you ask me. It seems like when you're very young, you can actually see things that adults can't. I remember when I was younger, I saw things in the mirror. I was freaked out. I don't talk about this story because I'm way too scared. So you know what? That's why I think a lot of these stories on this list, on this series, is very plausible. Number 3, this story comes from Lacura Gaming on YouTube. I don't know if I said your name right. I do apologize. Lacura. Okay, you said this. True story. When I was 6, I met 3 kids only I could see. I tried really hard to show my family, but they just said that they were imaginary friends. I used to have the same dream of me pushing my little bro down the stairs, killing him, and 3 kids would be at the bottom shushing me. Eventually I told my mom through fear of it actually happening one day, and she dismissed it as a nightmare. They finally believed me when me and my siblings were arguing, and a light bulb blew off the dining room table, and we had some picture frames flew off too. None of them were on the edge, and that's when my auntie prayed over me and I never saw them again. I think when something scares you, it is best to tell your parents so maybe they can help you out. I've never had an imaginary friend, but I know a lot of people do. I mean, how do millions of people have imaginary friends? Maybe they are actually real. Maybe these kids are seeing something. But you know what? If I start seeing someone or something that is not there, I'm gonna have a mental freakout. What the heart attack just happened? Well, this next scary story is up next, number 2. This story comes from user XXAlienXX96 on Instagram, and they said this. My husband told me one of the scariest stories I've ever heard in my life. He and a friend of his decided to go to an abandoned insane asylum that was 5 stories. He and his friend heard some rumors about that building, but they laughed about it. They entered the building and made their way to the 5th floor. They went from the 5th floor to the basement. Each floor began to feel more and more eerie. When they finally hit the basement, that's when things got insane. He and his friends began to feel funny. They heard the noise of claws being dragged against the floor, and then they began to feel strange. The strange feelings were their breaking points, and they ran out of the basement and exited the building. Upon exiting the building, the strange feelings didn't stop. So they went to the hospital to see what was going on. After tests were done, my husband got told by doctors that he had a mini heart attack and a mini stroke at the same time. And he and his friends have not been back to the building ever since. Yeah, I don't think I'd ever go back either. I think this story was scary. The moment that you said your husband and his friends decided to go to an abandoned insane asylum. Who does that? It's so brutal about your husband having a mini heart attack. I do sincerely hope that he is okay, and hopefully he stays out of abandoned buildings, especially insane asylums. What is he? Insane? Finally, number 1, we have someone who was blessed as a kid but still sees demons today. Well, we have a story from _tomergy_ from Instagram, and this is what they said. Even though I was blessed by a priest and everything, I still see this demon out of the corner of my eye or something fully in person. I also know that this demon is still haunting me because I still shift to this nightmarish dimension. I am very frightened and always pray whenever this happens. One time, I put crosses all over my room and house, and when I was alone, they turned upside down. Pretty scary. I've learned something from this. Never mess with the supernatural because you can end up summoning something that you can never get rid of. When I tell my family of this experience, they always tell me to have faith and never stop going to church. I believe I'm cursed by this demonic entity, and I'm very scared of what's going to happen when I die. Okay, maybe you have to figure out how to get rid of the demon, maybe talk to a priest, maybe you have to be blessed again, maybe try some holy water. Just bathe in holy water for the next 10 years. And I also agree with you with the fact that you should never summon a demon, and that's exactly why I don't believe in Ouija, you know, the Ouija board, oh, do you want to come play this Ouija board game? It's not a game, people. Why would you want to summon a demon?